Hey everybody, welcome to episode 62 of Two Guys, Zero Planners. It has been a while, but that's just because life was doing life things, as life always does. Hey Urban, how's it been going?
Yeah, like you said, life was busy. It was one of those times where it was, I don't even know what it was. There was a lot of smaller things that somehow made it hard to find the time and be in the mood and be awake enough to
Right.
actually record. So, but now, yeah, we're finally getting there.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of being awake enough, I regret, I regret staying up till 5 o'clock in the morning today. And then when I woke up at, oh dear, what was it? Like 8:30? I messaged you asking if we were still going to be recording today. And when you said yes, I said, okay, in that case, I'm going to go ahead and grab another hour of sleep. And that was a tactical mistake.
Yeah, it's like when you then go back to sleep, it's you're basically tired for the rest of the day, right?
Pretty much.
Although when you go to bed at 5, it's questionable if you would be awake otherwise.
Yeah, I don't even know why I stayed awake till 5. I mean, I didn't feel awake, but I was, and it was just one of those moments where my body was just like, okay, I guess I'm not going to sleep.
Where you're trying to feel young again.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm not looking forward to turning 40 in December. Yay.
Mm-hmm.
So, do we want to talk about stationary things first, or do we want to rant about other stuff first?
Maybe let's get the stationery out of the way. That seems like a more contained thing to do, right?
Yeah. That being the case, though, that means this part of the show is pretty much going to be you. I haven't, the last month and a half or so, I haven't really been doing stationary things. So, yeah, take it away. I will be actively listening.
Yeah. Usually when it's getting stressful, I end up buying more pens.
As we all do.
I do have stuff to talk about. But first, we went on holiday for Easter to Greece, which was nice because my wife's grandmother, basically, they've been in Athens for forever, and they have a house from the 30s, fairly central in Athens. And it's been empty for the last 10 years because her brother lived in there for a while, and then they moved out because it was a bit small. It's like 3 rooms only. And then some months ago, my wife's mother actually bought some mattresses from IKEA, had them delivered, and had the walls all painted and stuff. And it's not perfect, but it's actually, for a holiday for a few days, it's actually really nice to just stay in there instead of staying with her parents, which, I mean, they're nice people, but instead of 2 people in a house, then you're suddenly 6, which is a bit crowded and would be a bit hard. So that was cool. So we stayed there, and I brought a bit of stationery with me. I tried to keep it minimal. I'm slowly getting to the point where I'm succeeding at that. So just my 5-year diary, really small diary for journaling, although I didn't do a lot of journaling. And then a few letters I wanted to reply to. I even managed to write 1 or 2. And then actually only 2 pens. So one fountain pen, so a Gravitas pocket pen, and some cartridges, and a Uniball 1P, which is also a super tiny, fat, I don't know, gel pen or something.
Right.
And that was it. And that was actually fun to use only those things.
I mean, I'm looking at the picture of it. That's not a lot. So when I go to work every morning, my minimal loadout is the MacBook Air, the charger for the MacBook Air, the charging cable for the Apple Watch, charging cable for my iPhone, charging cable for my Logitech G Pro, the Cytec double Thunderbolt dock that straps onto the side of the MacBook Air, a 2 terabyte portable hard drive, a 20,000 milliwatt hour battery backup, one of my digital cameras with whatever lens I chose to take that day, one of my analog cameras, 3 rolls of film, the canister for the roll of film that's in the camera I'm currently using, 2 1-liter bottles of water, 3 apples, a trash bag for said apples, 2 paper towels. This is my minimal loadout. When I go on a trip, I have that bag packed the way it normally is. Plus, I've got 3 other bags. 1 bag for all my lenses, 1 bag for my backup bodies, and the rest of my film and my cleaning supplies.
Yeah. But I mean, it was also a bit dictated by how much we could take, right? So these days, basically all flights within Europe are without checked baggage, right? So you have a maximum of 1 item, maximum 8 kilos, right? Whatever you can take on the plane with you. And we were there for, 10 days. Yes, we had a washing machine that we could use, but we actually wanted to take some clothes and maybe a book or 2 to read. So there wasn't actually much space or weight for that stuff.
Wait, 8 kilos?
Yeah.
Ballpark 20, 21 pounds?
I don't know. 17.
17. Okay. Dear God, I could not travel by plane in Europe.
Yeah. Although we noticed that basically no one checks this, right? They don't have the staff to then actually check that people don't take more than that, right? It's just that most people actually adhere to the limits. But in the end, at the gate, they basically tell you, hey, the plane is full. If anyone wants to actually check in their luggage, they can. So usually we just bring the luggage plus something extra for a bit of smaller things, because that's usually how it works. But yeah, and then, I mean, if we wanted to have some checked luggage, it would actually be, 30, 40 euros extra. And for such a trip, it actually we don't really need it.
Yeah, most checked bag fees around here are $35 for them per bag for the major carriers, I think. It could be higher than that. I'm not sure. My mom does all the flying. I don't. So
yeah.
But yeah, your minimal loadout looks like it's almost a non-existent loadout to me. So I think you're doing good there. I do think you're doing good.
Yeah, and I mean, when you're on holiday, it's sort of, I'm out of the routine anyway, so I usually don't do much journaling anyway. So it was fine.
I think I'm more envious of the pictures of the food that you sent back when you went.
Yeah, that's obviously the highlight, right? For Easter, for the Easter Sunday, we actually went to friends of my wife in their backyard. They actually had a grill, and they had a whole lamb that they grilled there for a few hours, and then a huge table in the yard, and there was 20 people or something, and a lot of food, and we could barely walk afterwards, obviously. and the least amount of what we ate was the lamb, obviously, because there was so much else.
My most favorite experience of visiting Athens back in the early 90s was my older brother was big into salads at the time. Mm-hmm. Everywhere he went, just focused more on the salad than everything else. We were eating in Athens, and he got his salad, and he went to go take a bite of the salad, and a small pair of antenna or eye stalks came up out of the salad, and it was a snail. And he freaked out, and the poor wait staff, because we're this typical American vacationing family, and they thought we were going to make a big deal out of it. My parents are both laughing hysterically. I'm laughing hysterically because something finally bad happened to my older brother. So yeah,
nice.
It was a fun time. And then we walked throughout all of the ancient Greek ruins, and my feet hurt, and I complained a lot because it was so hilly and so long and so boringly hot and humid. And when you're a 4 or 5 year old kid, you don't want to be doing that.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think the best is actually when you then go to a tavern that's actually by the sea, and you get the real fresh caught fish and squid and everything from the day.
We had that in So the entire reason we were over there, my bio dad was stationed at Incirlik Air Force Base just outside of Adana, Turkey.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things we used to do every weekend, we would go to our friend's beach house in Kizkalesi, about 45 minutes southwest of Adana. Yeah, it was amazing. You're right. There's nothing that beats that.
The best is like the really fairly small squid, but then they're sort of fried, and they're just amazing. And it's not like squid you would buy, I don't know, frozen, which is a bit chewy, but instead they're like, oh, really good.
Yeah, it's not your store-bought calamari. It's actually fresh out of the water.
Exactly. Yeah.
The bad thing is, here in Oklahoma, there is no such thing as fresh calamari. It is all processed and frozen by the time it gets from any coast to here.
Yeah, I mean, same here. Munich is sort of landlocked, directly in the middle of the continent, right? There's no fresh seafood anywhere. So you'd either go north or south or west if you want any. So,
well, now I have to check something. Now you've got me thinking. So let's see. Let's take a gander at Munich. Okay, so Munich to the Adriatic as the crow flies is about 115, 120 miles. Like, if you are able to just go straight up and over the Alps without having to do anything.
Yeah, I mean, that's not quite how it works, but yeah, you just have to cross the Alps and then you're in Italy. I don't know, you go to Venice or...
I mean, we can ask Hannibal how it was crossing the Alps. I hear he did it a couple times.
Yeah.
Then you look at Oklahoma City to the Gulf of Mexico. I refuse to call it the other thing.
Yeah.
I'm sitting here looking at Google Maps and it has the other name on it. And I'm just, I'm sorry. It's the fucking Gulf of Mexico. Get over yourself.
Gulf of Mexico for me. Yeah. In brackets, Gulf of America. So
yeah, you still live in civilized country. I don't.
Mm-hmm.
But it's about 300, almost 400 miles from Oklahoma City to the Gulf States or to the Gulf Coast. So your not fresh seafood has less travel than my not fresh seafood. Good sir.
Yeah.
So I envy, like, every time you go to Greece and you send pictures, the first thing that goes through my head is, I hate Urban. I really hate Urban right now. If I could just yell at him over TeamSpeak, I totally would. And then 2 is like, well, I guess there goes $30 while I go to my nearest Mediterranean restaurant and get some good food.
Yeah.
Man, at some point, once I lose enough weight, I need to fly back over to the Mediterranean and just veg out for like a week.
On one of the islands or something. Off the beaten path, ideally.
Yeah, definitely away from Athens. I mean, I know it's probably going to sound a little gauche, but maybe one of the border towns between Greece and Turkey, because really that's not a heavy tourist area.
Yeah, I mean, there's also certain islands that actually have a different way of dealing with it, where they actually disallow building huge hotels. Mm-hmm. So the only thing is, like, you have those family-run small hotels, which is, we went to Andros last year or the year before, and then we stayed sort of in a, I don't know, they had maybe 15 rooms, and they had their breakfast in their garden, and the owner made it. The owner made it every day, and there's always, he experimented, and there was always something else every day. You never knew what he would make that day, so that was a lot of fun.
See, that's my kind of experience that I like to have here in America. Just because of how weird things can get, I prefer like the big hotel chains that are predictable. A Howard Johnson is a Howard Johnson. Marriott is a Marriott. A Motel 6 is a shithole, but they allow big dogs, so you go with what you have. So if the dogs are traveling with me, then it's probably a Motel 6. But they've gotten better. Since their reputation for being the place you go to get cocaine kind of took over. They got better, and now it's just the place you go to wonder if the person next door is getting cocaine. So it's one of those things where when I'm in the States, big chain because they're more predictable and you don't have to worry about waking up to somebody looking over you or stalking you through their nanny cam. Outside of the US, I think there's a lot less of that happening.
Mm-hmm.
So I prefer smaller experiences. And I mean, if it's a place here in the US that I know, so if I'm going to like Indiana where I grew up, sure, I'll skip the big chains and I'll go for something smaller because it's an area that I know. No, I can't do that with Southern California because it's California. But I can do that with certain parts of Arizona that I'm very familiar with and a few parts of Missouri. Everywhere else, though, no, I'm staying in a big chain. So, yeah. See, now I'm gonna have to go on vacation. Yeah. Thanks. You're spending more of my money.
The next vacation is already planned in about 4 or 5 weeks or something. There's the next holidays, so that's Pentecost, and there's 2 weeks of school holidays as well, and then we actually go to France this time.
Oh, nice. Wait, is going to France considered nice, or is that just how does that work? Because over here, we make fun of France so much that we consider France to be like the Alabama of Europe.
I mean, it's different, but it's, yeah. I mean, we're going south enough that it's actually going to be warm and sunny, and we're going to visit these Lascaux, so the ancient caves with the paintings and everything. So, yeah.
Ooh. Okay. So you're going to the good part of France.
Yeah, but it's not like there's a different. You wouldn't leave your stuff somewhere. You might want to park your car, not somewhere off the beaten path, and stuff like that. Yes, that is definitely true. So we had our car broken in when we lived in France. So yes, you have to be a bit more probably careful than Germany, but on the other hand, yeah, not too bad.
I mean, it's sad. I was going to say something, but it's like I live in a part of town where my rent for a 1-bedroom apartment is on the higher side. So it's one of those neighborhoods. Every other year or so, we'll have 2 or 3 weekends where everybody's car in the parking lot gets broken into.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just the way it is here. Yay, America. And 9 times out of 10, it's only one thing stolen from a vehicle. They break into everyone's car. And if you have a gun, they take it. If you don't have a gun, then nothing got taken out of your car.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's weird. It is definitely weird. I know why they're doing it because I mean, committing crimes with someone else's firearm makes it to where the cops have to take longer to try to figure out who did what. But yeah, welcome to America! Yay. So I see the next thing in the show notes is. What brand of pen is this?
Yvgenii. This is basically Wing Sung, because apparently it's not their name. They just had a licensing agreement and it runs out in a year or two, so they're transitioning to their own name or something. But yeah, what's the model? Yvgenii 930, which is a Chinese fountain pen with a number 9 sized nib, which on its own is interesting because it's so huge, almost unusable. But the other cool thing is like it's a Chinese pen with a broad nib, which that's something you usually don't get because it's a thing for the Western market, and usually those brands, it's just incidental that someone from Europe or the US actually buys those. They seem to be still mainly producing for the Chinese market. But yeah, I did get one, and then it took a few days, and then I got a second one. So now I have 2 of them.
So this doesn't qualify as cheap Chinese pen?
No, not anymore. That's like a 40, 50 euro pen already.
Yeah, the Yongxin Yvgenii 930 acrylic fountain pen. That is, dear God, $57.
Yeah.
I'm
on the other hand,
at the Amazon listing.
Yeah. On the other hand, it has a brass mechanism in it, right? So it's not plastic anymore.
So can we call this what it is? Can we go ahead and call this a shameless Mont Blanc ripoff?
I mean, it doesn't try to be a Mont Blanc. Also, a 149 is smaller than this pen.
Right. I'm more speaking to how the cap bands are placed and the font choice that they used in the cap band. And then the way that they've got the ink window is very Mont Blanc. The way that they do those vertical striations on the ink window.
Yeah.
That's
even closer would be the 630, which is their number 8 sized pen. So I would have gotten other colors because I'm not super happy about black and this burgundy, but those were the ones that were available in the first release. But yeah, now they've already have a white one and also with flat ends, but trying very hard not to buy another one. And see, maybe they have nicer colors coming out. For the smaller one, they have translucent ones as well, where you can see more of the mechanism, which is fun instead of a small inked window. So I'm waiting for those, I guess.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and put the piano black gold in my shopping cart for now.
Yeah.
The one thing I'm going to try to get back into writing a little is going with fatter fountain pens. Because the wrist thing, it's kind of stabilizing, maybe getting better. It's just, I think if I can get a fatter fountain pen, that may help. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah. And so the section definitely is fatter, but it's also a super long nib. It takes some time getting used to this. Also, it probably isn't a great combination that I'm using ink samples these days.
Right.
So I have to unscrew the nib section to fill the pen. Otherwise, it would be impossible, right? Because the nib is that big.
So how smooth is the writing experience with that number 9?
So both of them had baby's bottom, so I had to adjust them, work on them somewhat to get them to write nice. Super smooth, obviously, but then you get those hard starts that you get with baby's bottom. So that was a bit disappointment, but on the other hand, you can also get that on a Kaweco broad nib, right?
That's kind of the disappointing part. It's like, come on, guys. Like, you expect a brand like Kaweco or Lamy or Sailor or Platinum or Pilot or insert every brand name here that is not your cheap Chinese fountain pen brand name. You expect them to actually take the time for Kaweco Sports are like $25-$30, but you expect them on the higher end models, the ones that are like $60-$70, to take the time to make sure the nib is not complete crap.
Yeah.
That is a rant for another day.
Yeah.
Yeah, I may have to try out that 930. I can get them relatively quickly. So that may be something I try just to see if it plays nicely with my hands. If it does, then yay.
Yeah.
I would like to see more brands embrace the number 8 nib. I would love to see that. Like more of the mainstream brands. I would love to see a Lamy Safari with a number 8 nib. That would be amazing.
Yeah. I mean, there are more and more of those pens, right? But it's still, I mean, they're still huge, right? So it's more of a trend, but it's still not like every day.
Right.
I'm still not sure I see the point entirely, but it's a new thing to try, right? So the next day I use a Kaweco Sport with a number 5, right? So that works too for me.
Or, oh man, I just thought of something. The best Frankenstein ever. A Pelican M200 that has had to be fattened up in order to accommodate a size 8 nib. So it's a short, stubby, fat pen that has a wider section than a Kaweco Sport because it has to house that ungodly large nib.
Yeah.
That would be funny.
Yeah, I need to dig out my pocket number 8 pen that I had made at some point.
Well, we will see. It is in my shopping cart for now, so we will see if I decide to pick it up.
Yeah. Yeah. So next, content warning. Yeah, if you click on the next link in the show notes for everyone, this will probably be the ugliest cover of a notebook you will see for a while. So be careful. When we were on holiday, basically in the neighborhood where we stayed, there was a small stationery store. It was mainly school supplies. And so my daughter bought some stuff and some pencils and some paint and brushes and everything. And then I asked her, hey, maybe you can also buy me a notebook, ideally blank pages. And that's the only thing she could find.
That is a choice.
Yes. So, I mean, on the other hand, we then said, okay, I'm not going to use it now when we're back home and my other notebook runs out. Until then, you have time to actually put something nicer on the cover. So she has these acrylic markers, which are ideal because they can easily cover the surface. And then she can do that for me. So for work, I use those. That is like B5-ish sized notebooks. And we have this company mascot, this like yellow robot. And he already did one for the last notebook. And then for the next one, I guess you can do something here and cover it with something better.
I mean, a picture of a ham sandwich would be better.
Yes, definitely.
That is definitely a choice for a cover.
Yeah.
If those two pictures weren't ruining the like print pattern on the back of it, then it would be a little bit loud. But with the pictures on the front of it, that's just fugly.
Yeah, I mean the background is okay-ish. That's true. Yeah.
Yeah,
the nice thing is also right on the back. That's actually the table we had in the apartment, so it's sort of almost camouflaged, and you couldn't find it on the table anymore.
My mother still has some scarves from Greece with that kind of pattern, not the table pattern, but the book pattern.
Yeah.
And she's got some scarves from Greece that have the same pattern. So it's like, okay, that that's what I'm saying. That pattern would be fine. I've seen it used quite a few places and it looks good. The rest of it, what the hell were you guys thinking?
Yeah, this is like this stereotypical, I don't know, diary for the 12-year-old girl or whatever. Although I'm not sure they would like that either. So I don't know how much of a seller that one is.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of something to say, but I just can't. That's got me speechless. Oh.
Yeah, so that, I guess that's it about stationery. And the next link is just for fun.
I mean, that's stationery adjacent.
Stationery adjacent, yeah. So I think we might have talked about it out in the last episode.
We briefly covered it, but we didn't cover this one in particular, I don't think. No, we covered it for like 30 seconds, but having this picture in the show notes will definitely be good.
Yeah, that's almost episode cover material. Yeah, so I played around with ChatGPT to make some sticker designs for FPC for me. And I thought, okay, ChatGPT, take this sticker and replace the capybara with Cthulhu. And then it did it. And I said, okay, but you spelled Fountain Pen Companion wrong. And then it said, okay, I fixed it. And then that was the outcome, which was even worse. I guess it sort of mixed up. It sort of, I don't know. The more you think about it, it sort of makes sense, right? Because that name is sort of a weird spelling of things anyway, right? So it kind of maybe makes sense that everything else is spelled weirdly as well. So yeah, that's what came out, and I'm somewhat tempted to register that Fountain Pen CompanPananon.
CompanPananon.
And then I don't know, April 1st, I have a new design, and it sort of redirects to that site, and it switches the logo, and everything is dark and brown or something. I don't know. That would be fun.
Oh, I mean, the URL just sells it. Fountain Pen CompanPananon. It makes it sound like a 12-step help program.
Yeah.
And then like Fountain Pen Companton.
Yeah.
I mean, Cthulhu looks so enthused. I've never seen Cthulhu so happy. It looks
but
like
not. It doesn't look like he's going to use them. He's going to make you use the pens, right?
Well, either that or he's going to. It looks like he's going to skewer you with those fountain pens. I don't know. It's like seeing the Dark Lord Cthulhu holding fountain pens in that way. I don't know. I think you're right. It looks more like he's giving them to you, saying, "Use these to further my evil agenda."
Yeah, and it's all black ink or something.
Good job, ChatGPT. We love you.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
man. You know, you say it could be like episode art material. It actually could.
Yeah, exactly.
If you had ChatGPT like do a cross between our actual show logo and add that in there and then see what monstrosity it comes up with, I'm sure it'll be fine. It'll work out fine.
As long as you don't care about spelling, it will all be fine. Yeah.
I mean, we did have the guinea pig turn into whatever the hell, a teddy bear.
Yes.
You know, I wonder if the person that gave us a thumbs down on the episode, I wonder if they gave us the thumbs down because I titled the episode All Hail ChatGPT.
And then listened for 5 seconds or not at all, right?
If they had left a comment, which you can do on YouTube now that these podcasts are over there, we would know why you gave us the thumbs down.
Yeah, it's kind of disappointing from YouTube, right? You expect horrible comments.
I know. And I mean, I checked for my filters and there were no comments that were filtered for me to review to see if I could approve of them or not. So I'm a little disappointed. I mean, it also, I guess the thumbs down could also be because the Two Guys Zero Planners podcast is on the Inktwell YouTube channel.
Yeah.
Because I don't do videos anymore. I don't know how I can say that any clearer. Apparently, people didn't actually see my community posts because I did 2 of them on YouTube. Apparently, no one saw those because the second I released all the podcast episodes and we had a few listens through the last 5 or 6 episodes where we talk about thinking about quitting, then actually quitting, then what life is like after I quit, I dropped like 20 subscribers and then immediately picked up 60. So it's like, okay.
Yeah, that worked out. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think people are slowly getting the hint that until my wrist improves, the only content they're going to get on the Inktwell is this podcast. So if you are listening to this podcast, if there's any questions you want to ask us, leave a comment on the video on YouTube. Just, comment over there. If you like the episode, give it a thumbs up. If you hate the episode, give it 2 thumbs up or a thumbs down, whichever you choose. I mean,
2 thumbs down.
Well, yeah, definitely give 2 thumbs down. Either 2 thumbs up or 2 thumbs down. If you hate the episode, never give it 1 of each. Just give it 2. Always give it 2.
Very transparent, but yeah.
Yeah, completely. And it's just one of those things. I figured podcasts, unless you go out of your way to put them in front of people's faces, tend to not get out to listeners, viewers, whatever. Am I wrong for taking over my former YouTube channel and putting a podcast on it? No, because it's my content. I get to choose what I put on my YouTube channel. So for all the haters out there that say I can't do that, I've got 2 middle fingers pointing at my computer screen right now. You can do with those as you please. What, Karma? I'm talking animatedly about YouTube. I know, you're fine. I'm not talking about you. You're a good girl just because, that's what kept me up. We had a really massive storm last night and she kept kicking me. Now I know why I couldn't go to sleep. Lay down. Go lay down. No, don't lick my face. Ugh. Go lay down. Dogs, man. It's like having a never-ending 2-year-old. At least that's what I've been told. If 2-year-olds are really that bad, then dear God, why do people become parents?
Because they A, didn't know beforehand, and B, they're so cute, and that's their defense mechanism, right? In a way. I mean, on the other hand, you don't have a 12-year-old who has to learn Latin, right? That's maybe better.
I mean, but by the same token, you also kind of have a retirement plan. Like when it comes time for you to be in an old folks home, you at least have kids that get to make that decision for you and then maybe cover some of the financial burden. Yeah. Or am I over Americanizing this?
No, you're not.
I mean, when I get old and I end up having to go into a home, I mean, hopefully I'm mentally here enough to be able to choose all this stuff for me without any kids or any fallback plan. If my nephews and nieces don't know who I am, which at the moment I'm doing a good job making sure that they don't, I'm hosed. I have no backup plan. My dogs at the time aren't going to be able to make that decision for me. Wow, that just took a
it took a turn. Yeah,
yeah, that just became way too adult of a conversation there. Let's take this back a few decades. To our actual 30s and 40s here. Wow. This first bullet point of mine, or do we want to cover the FPC thing first?
Yeah, let's cover that. That's actually super quick. So
okay.
So FPC is like there's like two things that I do. One is actually develop new features, like better, maybe there's a way to actually show pens and have reviews for pens as well and stuff like this and that. And the other one is actually basically daily. There's some manual work for example, for the public inks, you can add reviews and I need to approve them. And then new inks are being added to the system. I need to figure out, is that the same, just a different spelling of something that already exists, or is it an actual new ink, or is it just someone had fun cluster mixing inks and came up with fun names, and it's actually something that shouldn't go into this public list of. And I used to do that basically every day, at least once, to go through the new entries, because I didn't have a good way to automate this away. Turns out it's all text. And what are LLMs good at? Text. So that's what I spent the last weeks basically here and there trying to automate this all using ChatGPT. So now at least the LLM does it for me, and I afterwards can double check that it's doing the right thing. And I don't know, 90 to 95% of the time it's actually doing the right thing, which is not perfect, but those things usually aren't, right? So it's just, at least stuff happens, and then afterwards I can clean up the mistakes, but I don't need to. I mean, I'm still doing it today, but in theory I could not do it every day. Right. And then go on holiday and I just leave it for a week or two without, and then sort of stuff doesn't back up and it's just happening. And afterwards I can go back and clean it up.
So this kind of brings up a interesting side thought that I have. Your main line of work, are you more of a back end for application support, or are you more of a user experience?
More of a back end, but we also do a lot of deal a lot with telephony. So that includes people actually calling and dealing with them in that way, right? Sort of that is a different front end. And that's a different front end than, but yeah, usually not the UI of whatever applications we have.
Don't you ever worry about, like, the more people like yourself that do back end work, the more that people like yourself utilize LLMs and train LLMs into how to automate a lot of this, I guess, higher end databasing, that you're almost marginalizing yourself in what you do?
Not really. Depending on I'm fairly positive to them. I always tell people an LLM is like your intern, who's very enthusiastic and well-meaning, but sometimes get stuff surprisingly wrong. And other people call them, I've recently heard it, golden retrievers on acid, which basically is the same concept, right? Very enthusiastic and well-meaning, but sometimes horribly wrong. So this field started out with punch cards, right? And then you wrote binary, and then you had an assembler, and then you had a compiler, and then you had some tools on top of that. It's just yet another thing that makes certain tasks easier to do. That's always, at least in the programming world, that's always been like that. You always had to learn something new, which made your life easier and faster. And then you usually don't run out of work, right? There's always more to do than what you have time. And not yet, but eventually, I guess certain things will be much easier and faster to do because the LLMs will help you.
But you don't see an LLM being elegant enough in Ruby or Rails or Python to actually make code that doesn't look like you're looking at a plate of spaghetti trying to figure out what's actually working, and if something breaks, how to actually fix it.
Yeah, no, I don't see that. I mean, and then, right, it might be that at some point they actually can write the code well enough that you don't need to check it on that closely. But at some point, it's just going to all break down. And then you need the experts to actually look at it all, right? And figure out what the hell is going on here.
So what brings up my question, and I didn't actually expect this thought to pop in my head, so I'm actually kind of sitting here going, okay, what brought me on this tangent? But I was doom scrolling the news, which 10 out of 10 would not recommend. And I went to the business section, and Microsoft announced that they're doing more layoffs in favor of increasing automation.
Yeah, but this is like, that's, I think, just the scapegoat, right? I mean, they're all doing layoffs.
Yeah.
But that is because of this, because there's just less money at this point, right? So interest rates are going up. There isn't that much money to pour into the industry anymore, and that's why everyone is making up excuses to get rid of people or fire them. And that's why it seems like also where these mandatory return to office things come from, because they know that a certain set of people won't do it, and then they don't need to fire them. They just leave because of that, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it is a thing, but I don't think AI is the problem here.
I mean, you're not entirely wrong. I think part of Microsoft's biggest problem, though, is this wonderful thing called Windows 11. If it wasn't such a steaming pile of dog crap that, I mean, when corporate America still wants to stay on Windows 7 or Windows XP or have entire databases that are still Windows 95, then that should tell you your modern operating systems are junk.
Yeah, although I think they, as well as Amazon and Google, they're all making most of their money with their cloud offerings, right? I think Azure is actually the cash cow these days for Microsoft.
Yeah, I have no disagreement there. I really don't. Especially working in a corporate environment, seeing how much like every software suite, seeing how much they push cloud this, cloud that. Even if you're in a corporate environment that doesn't utilize that for regulatory reasons or privacy and security reasons, just seeing that the attempt is still there to push it down your throat, even though your IT department has ripped out all of those things in your corporate profile for your computer.
Yeah,
it's a thing. I just. With more and more companies sitting there and using the buzzword automation or AI to do their downsizing, it almost makes you wonder how much some of these out of touch geriatric CEOs don't actually understand what the hell they're doing.
Oh yeah, they don't. I mean, I today talked to a friend of mine whose team, 2/3 of the team got fired, and they thought they could replace them with AI tools, and then turns out they couldn't. So it is definitely a bubble and a fad, and it's not the first time where AI was the new buzzword in the industry, and then it turns out it didn't work as well as you would expect.
Well, I mean, Morpheus gives us a whole speech about AI taking over the world in the first Matrix movie. That's the entire thing. AI turned us into batteries.
Yeah, I think the first time was in the 70s, actually. So it's always been a thing and comes back. I mean, LLMs, they are super cool looking at what they can do. And there's certain things they will definitely replace. I mean, look at what I did with logo design or sticker designs for FPC, right? I had this design I had commissioned for I guess, fair price. I try to not underpay. But now I can make these variations out of it for, I don't know, $20 a month.
Yeah, I feel bad that I kind of used you to redo my Inktwell logo without paying you for it, but
no, it was fun to do and also not a lot of work. So it's like that certain things just become easy to do and go away, right? I mean, if you look in history, there was there were when looms became a thing, right? You had the whole industry
right.
Disappear, and maybe I mean, it's obviously not going to be pretty, but on the other hand, I think right now it's just too useful to be turning back, and I don't think you can fight this anymore.
Well, I definitely know.
Yes, there will be some kind of back and forth and saying, hey, do they actually need to pay for all the content they use to train this? But it's
which I think is definitely yes.
Yeah, but it's just going to stay, and certain tasks are going to be automated away, right? And then you just have to think about doing the more complex things, right? I mean, I can make a variation of a design, right, for for the website, but I definitely didn't come up with the original. Right. That's still too creative and you just need someone who has to do that, right?
Well, and GitHub is a thing that exists.
Yeah.
And a human going to GitHub and doing everything by hand and taking those bits and pieces and interleaving them together is kind of a longhand version of an LLM doing it for you. I mean, you're not wrong though about it being like some of the stuff it can actually do kind of well. I'm working on getting a little bit better at reading through PCAPs and stuff for some of the stuff I do at work. And so I've been doing a lot more after hours deep diving into Wireshark and some of the functions of that. Mm-hmm. So I guess kind of in the help desk world, it's like, okay, how many of those functions can it do without having to be directly supervised? But then a help desk, I feel like help desk people like myself are kind of in a more secure environment job-wise for one reason and one reason only. Help desks are made up of nerds. Nerds hate talking to computers. So a help desk is always going to want to talk to another human in a help desk. So as long as there is one major company with a lot of employees that has a help desk team that is still flesh and bone, then other help desks are still going to have to be flesh and bone because nerds want to talk to nerds. They don't want to talk to computers.
Yeah, that is super annoying. These chats with what you actually know is going to be an LLM, and then they're useless, and then you waste your time until they have to hand it over to a person anyway. Yeah.
Oh yeah. The Amazon chat system is so bad. It is so ungodly bad. Well, that was an interesting tangent. I think I'm going through some withdrawals of Expanding Beyond. You and Monica need to record something at some point.
Yeah, we need to get back into that as well. Which would be episode 62 as well, right? So
it would be, yeah.
We caught up.
Oh man. I think probably the last thing we will talk about. Oh, by the way, the pulling a muscle in my back thing. While we were discussing the ChatGPT stuff, I ordered a back massager because I couldn't find mine. So it'll be here later this afternoon. Same day shipping with Amazon. Yay. $30 well spent.
Yeah. No, same day shipping. Well, in certain cases, but it's also Sunday, so that wouldn't work here either.
I mean, I've got 6 Amazon hubs here in the metro. So
yeah,
it's one of those, I don't mean this to be offensive, but it is kind of a term here. The Chinesium stuff where it's just overabundant and you've got 50 manufacturers that make the exact same thing and they're all in China and you can only get that product from China because we've outsourced everything to there.
Yeah.
But they work so well. I'm mad at myself for not being able to find my other one because I had it for like 5 years and it worked great. And now I'm sitting here going, I'm in a 1-bedroom apartment with no junk. Where did it go? So yeah, I mean, it'll be here and then I can work that knot out of my shoulder blade. But yeah, I think part of the reason what ended up causing me to pull a muscle was this most recent edition of camera gear. I was looking at some Leica rangefinders. I was going to save up and eventually get like a Leica.
Yeah.
I was eventually going to get a Leica M4, one of those older rangefinders. Mm-hmm. And so I was looking at lenses. I figured, okay, I would get of course it's going to be used. I would get a used lens before I got the camera. just to make sure I could get one at a decent price before, scarcity. Well, before scarcity drove the price of the lens even higher, because Leica lenses get stupid expensive, stupid quick.
They do.
And two of the lenses I was looking at for M mount suddenly just up and disappeared. Like every one of them that I was looking at just gone. So that kind of put me in the panic mode. I'm like, well, shit, I'm going to have to buy a body and a lens. I want to get a Leica. I would prefer a rangefinder, but I want to get into that ecosystem first. And then lo and behold, I went to KEH because I was thinking about selling my 20 to 60 kit lens for my Panasonic S5 because I never use it. I use the 24 to 105, or I use the 70 to 300, or I use the 85. And I was going to go through and sell the 20 to 60. And I was like, oh, well, I'll look through I'll look through the film stuff. And I saw the Safari Green R3.
Mm-hmm.
No lens, just the Safari 3 or the Safari Green R3. And I started looking at some of the R mount lenses. And there was this R2 60 millimeter f2.8. It was a decent price. It was like $800. And then there were a couple R3s. I was like, let's start with the 60 first.
Yeah.
So I dropped, because the body wasn't mint, I got lucky. Like it was excellent plus. According to KEH's grading system, it was excellent plus. Mm-hmm. So the only thing that is wrong with this R3 body is obviously it's got some thumb rubbing on the back next to the film window. And it shows its age. It was made in the mid 70s. Mm-hmm. It is what it is. And in the mirror box, in the focus mirror box area, there's a little bit of dirt between the viewfinder and the focusing mirror, the focusing lens.
Yeah.
So it would have to be taken apart by a professional to have that part dusted out.
Yeah. I mean, on the other hand, it won't be visible.
Right.
The final image,
it doesn't impact the final image. So, and it's not so dirty that I can't even use it. It's like maybe 7 specks of dirt.
Yeah.
So it's not even that bad. And the mirror's clean. The action's great. As far as vintage cameras go, it is in excellent shape. So I paid $600 for the body, $850 for the lens, and camera came in. And that's when I realized the reason there's a 1 cam and a 2 cam and a 3 cam and then an R ROM for the R mount lenses is because they changed the cam system from the different R's all the way up. Mm-hmm. So the aperture would actually be fed back into the light meter to give you an accurate reading.
Yeah.
When you were using automatic shutter speed. I didn't realize this with the 2.8. And when I send off the first roll to go get it developed, since I still don't have the chemicals for that yet, the first couple pictures before I figured that out are probably going to be unusable, which is fine. Mm-hmm. But I found out using that lens, there's a lovely trick where you go ahead, let's say you're stepped down to 5.6. You go ahead and press, well, first you get everything in focus. Then you go ahead and press the lever for the aperture preview, or for the depth of field preview. And while you're holding that, you half press the shutter button to lock in your shutter speed.
Yeah.
And while it's half pressed, then you release the depth of field preview and then go ahead full press to get the shot. Mm-hmm. The trigger on that R3 is a little too touchy. So there's not really a good half press. So what ended up happening on that 2.8, and anytime I go back to use it, if I'm not shooting wide open at 2.8, then I'm going to have to do the workaround is go ahead and do the, get everything in focus and go ahead and do the depth of field preview to get the suggested shutter speed and then just move the dial for that. Yeah. So that's a little bit of a headache. So then I went back to KEH and I was looking for another lens and I found a 35 to 70 f3.5. The only thing wrong with it is that the attached lens hood has like 2 dings on it. Other than that, that lens is in really good shape, which cost me another $900.
I mean, on the other hand, sometimes you can also just get away with it to actually not measure the speeds, right? You just set them manually, and it usually film is forgiving enough that it actually works.
Yeah.
So Sunny 16 and stuff like that.
Well, the good thing is when I'm using the 35 to 70, at least with it being a 3 cam, it is at least providing the correct aperture values. So yay, I'm happy about that.
Mm-hmm.
It is just one of those things where I'm going to have to get more used to the manual aspect of it. And I still have the Pentax ME Super as well with the 50 millimeter and the 135 millimeter. So the general rule of thumb is when I finish a roll in one camera, I go ahead and reload it with a new roll, but then I switch over to the other camera until I finish that roll.
Mm-hmm.
And then once I get like 5 or 6 rolls stacked up, then I'll send those off to get developed, unless I do my Breaking Bad arc and start getting chemicals to do it myself. Yeah. So that was a quick spend on a lot of Leica equipment. Yeah.
Yeah. Although those rangefinder type cameras, they're actually nice because they're just so compact, right? Because you don't need to accommodate the mirror box at all, right? And then you can move the lenses much closer, and you end up with a smaller camera. I have this Voigtlander, which I think they were in existence until, I don't know, 5-10 years ago. They were one of those OEM camera manufacturers that did some of the cheaper cameras for, I think, Nikon and whatever, I don't know who, back in the day when they actually still made film cameras. And they had this range of basically, so this is a Leica thread mount, which is earlier than the M mount even models. And the one I have that I actually got from someone else for free, it doesn't even have any finder, right? But I use it usually with my full frame 21 millimeter lens, where, I mean, there's almost no point in focusing, right? Because it's like an f4 lens, and 21 millimeters at f4, it's almost always in focus anyway.
In focus at that point.
Yeah. So that's also a fun combo. I still have there's one roll I need to develop or send off to get developed, because I also got rid of all my gear.
Man, KEH has a Voigtlander Bessa R, but what can $619, excellent condition. Yay. That is, at some point I'm going to jump down the rangefinder rabbit hole, and it's going to cost me dearly. Yeah.
I mean, there's obviously also the very old Russian ones, but they're just so, sometimes they actually work. Let's describe it that way. But the lenses are usually pretty good because they actually are use the formulations from Zeiss, right? So most of the lenses and everything came from Germany. So that's why the lenses are actually the high point of those, and the camera bodies are just usually pretty crappy.
Now, before we started the podcast, we were talking about the Leicas, and you mentioned that you like the body of the R8.
Yeah.
KEH has one like new minus with the motor winder for $770.
Yeah.
That is an interesting body style. That is, that's got some curves.
It is. Yeah, it does. That I like it. Although, I mean, I do have a Minolta autofocus where it even does the eye tracking, right? So depending on if sort of it has like 3 focusing zones, and depending on where you look in the finder, it actually picks the right one, right? They even had that feature in the 90s or something. So that's actually pretty cool.
Oh, wow. That is one thing about I think, the R3.
So my problem is the more automation you add, the less it's distinct from digital cameras, right?
Yeah.
So that's why I actually prefer those completely manual ones, where it sort of has a nicer vibe, where I say, okay, I'm taking pictures with film. I know each frame is going to cost me something. So it's actually a nicer feeling when you actually have to do all the manual work beforehand, right? Instead of having this super nice modern ones where you can shoot a complete roll in 3 seconds or something.
Yeah, knowing that each shot is going to cost me $1.17 is it makes me slow down to actually make sure that I'm doing what I want to do.
Yeah.
Whereas if I'm out and about with my Panasonic or my Fuji, I can come home with 500 or 600 pictures and literally just pick 5 that I like.
Yeah. I mean, in the end, it's just the question is, where do you spend your time, right? Either before you take the picture or afterwards.
Yeah, that is one thing, that picking up the Pentax and then picking up the R3, it's forcing me to think more about the technical aspect of photography. And I think that has made my most recent pictures, like going to that park and just getting some of those pictures, it's made me think a lot more about composition and about how I want to actually get everything to come out the way that I want it to.
Yeah.
I will say the entire experience of shooting with film, last night I went ahead and took the custom modes on both of my digital cameras, and I decided to turn it into film stock. So my custom modes are ISO 100, ISO 400, ISO 1600, and ISO 3200. So instead of using auto ISO and letting the camera do the math for me, I'm forcing myself to use those stopping points. And I'm treating it like I have a specific roll of film in my camera. So I'm either going out on the Panasonic and I'm either shooting in the Leica monochrome profile, or I'm shooting in their natural profile, which kind of mimics a Kodak color look.
Yeah.
And if I'm in the Fuji, the same ISO rules, but if I'm shooting black and white, then I'm shooting their Acros profile as if I had a red filter on the lens to go ahead and enhance the sky contrast.
Yeah.
Or I'm shooting in the Reala Ace profile. So that's kind of, I'm forcing myself to now think about technique and composition, even on the digital side. So I'm taking a lot fewer pictures than I had been, but they tend to look better, I would say. Yeah. The last pictures that I have in Discord aren't actually the most recent. Let me see. Pulling up the Mac. Okay, we'll go with that one. So okay. So this is with the Reala Ace and with the Acros profile as well. Just posting them in Discord because I haven't put them on Instagram or anything yet. And they're big files. The color one is like 101 megabytes and the black and white one is 50 megabytes because, there's no kill like overkill.
Yeah.
So the thing with this picture is, instead of doing my old habit of taking 15 or 16 or 20 copies of the picture to see which one I like, I took the Fuji, played with the focus range. I mean, not focus range, but lens range. So I've got the 150 to 500 on here. And so I was playing with the distance, and I decided to go ahead and go with like 175, 200. And then I played with the exposure till it looked right in the viewfinder. I was actually thinking through it. And then I took one shot and then a safety shot in case I was shaking too much on the first.
Yep.
And that's what I ended up with. So it's causing me to focus more on what I actually want from the picture. And from a technical perspective, this picture to me feels better than quite a lot of my photography before I got these analog cameras and started using them.
Yeah. So,
yeah. Man, I really like how the greens pop with Reala Ace. That is a good profile.
Yeah, that's true. Especially if you go back and forth between the black and white and that color one. That's like in your face green. Yeah.
It really is. I will say that's one thing I really love about Acros, especially if you put the red filter effect on it. The contrast just hits a little bit harder in the midtones. Yeah, I like it, but yeah. That was a random rabbit trail. Thanks to boy, so many topics. We'll cover the S1R Mark II later. The student loans will be later. The audio thing will be later. And we'll see if I succeeded on that final bullet point later. Yeah. So my topics have quite a bit for later. And in the meantime, you'll probably come up with something as well.
Yeah, I try not to buy any more pens. I'm sure I'll fail. So I'll have something to talk about.
Yeah, we always do. We always do.
That is true. Yeah.
All right. Well, that has been another episode of Two Guys, Zero Planners. If you like the show, want to support it or anything like that, best thing you could do is head on over to the Inktwell YouTube channel and listen to the episodes over there, because I do get some of the lovely YouTube ad revenue off of it, and that does help support the channel, or the podcast a little. There's a Patreon, but I don't do that much with it. And yeah, other than that, like, subscribe. If you want to talk to us, either use the email address that's in the show notes or leave a comment. I read those things. Even though I haven't really done anything with the channel in a long time, I was still reading through comments and replying to comments and everything with the comments. So yeah, talk to us. We like being talked to. It's amazing. Well, Urban, I will catch you on the next one. Hopefully before you go on vacation. If not, it'll be after vacation, but this time we'll know why the show was delayed.
Yes, until then. Bye-bye.